At the surface, it lies still and breathes, a long gray island of an animal resting in the swell, loading its blood and its muscle with air, the way you might fill your lungs before going under. Then it lifts its great tail into the sky, and it drops out of the world. It goes down through the blue, past the reach of the sun, past the last of the warm water, into a cold and total darkness that covers most of this planet, and that almost nothing with lungs will ever see. It is not lost. It is going to work. And it is built for this dark, the way you are built for daylight. This is the sperm whale, the largest predator with teeth alive on Earth today. Not the biggest animal in the sea. The gentle giants that filter the water for tiny things, like the blue whale, are far larger, but the largest thing that hunts, that chases another animal down in the dark and eats it. A big male can stretch more than 50 feet and weigh as much as 50 tons, and almost a third of that length is nothing but head. A vast, square, blunt nose, packed with a machine that we are still, after centuries, trying to understand. Inside that head is the largest brain that has ever existed in any animal, close to 20 pounds of it, about 5 times the size of yours. Inside it is a nose that does not smell but shouts, with one of the loudest voices of any creature alive. And down there in the black, it is going to find and kill an animal out of legend without ever seeing a thing. We have hunted this whale. We have feared it. We burned it in our lamps to light our cities. We wrote our most famous novel about it. And after all of that, some of the things we were most certain of turned out to be wrong. This is the deepest hunter. And this is what it is really like a mile down in the dark. To understand the hunter, you first have to stand next to the size of it. The sperm whale is the giant of the toothed whales, not the baleen whales, the gentle filter feeders like the blue and the humpback that strain the sea for tiny things. This is the largest of the animals that hunt with teeth, and it lives up to it. A grown male is longer than a city bus and can weigh more than a fully loaded truck, and it is shaped like nothing else in the ocean. That enormous boxy forehead, blunt as the front of a ship, takes up as much as a third of the whole body. Behind it, the animal narrows into a long, wrinkled, muscular tail, its skin creased like a prune, or like an old plum left too long in the sun. There is no mistaking it for anything else that swims. The mouth is stranger still. All of its teeth, cone-shaped and heavy, sit in the narrow lower jaw and fit into sockets in the upper. And here is the odd part. Whales have been found with twisted or broken jaws they could barely close, and they were healthy and well-fed anyway, which tells us that whatever this animal is doing to catch its food down there, its teeth may be almost beside the point. Males and females live such different lives that they barely look like the same animal. A big bull can be 3 times the weight of a female, one of the widest gaps between the sexes of any whale. The females stay in the warm water in families near the tropics. The males, once grown, leave for the cold ends of the earth and travel alone. We will come back to that because it turns out to be one of the most human things about them. But the size and the strange head are only the beginning. The real machine is inside. Watch one dive, and you understand why the body looks the way it does. When a sperm whale goes down to hunt, it does not fight the ocean. It surrenders to it. Its lungs collapse. Its ribcage folds inward under the growing pressure, on purpose. It has already stopped breathing, and now it lives off oxygen, stored not in its lungs, but in its blood, and in its dark, almost purple muscle, which is soaked with far more of it than yours will ever hold. Its heart slows. Its blood pulls back from the skin and the limbs and feeds only what matters, the heart and the brain, as the animal sinks into the cold, and it goes deep. A hunting dive routinely reaches around 2,000 feet, close to half a mile straight down, and can last 3/4 of an hour or more. Sometimes they go far below that, past a mile down, into water that would crush a submarine. Now, here is where the honest story matters more than the legend. you will hear the sperm whale called the deepest diving mammal on Earth. It is not, quite. A smaller, shyer cousin called the beaked whale has been tracked going deeper and staying under longer than any sperm whale ever recorded, down to nearly 2 miles for over 3 hours on a single breath. So the sperm whale does not hold the record. What it holds is something arguably stranger. Nothing anywhere near its size goes anywhere near as deep. This is a 50-ton, warm-blooded animal, an air breather with a brain and a family waiting at the surface, that chooses to hunt in a place built to kill things a fraction of its size. It swims down into a crushing, freezing, pitch-black world with no light at all, for no other reason than that its food lives there. And to find that food in that darkness, it does something no eye could ever do. The sperm whale hunts with sound. That giant square head is not muscle, and it is not fat for warmth. It is, essentially, the largest sound machine in the natural world. Inside it sits an organ filled with a fine, waxy oil called spermaceti, along with a set of air spaces and a great cushion of tissue that whalers, unromantically, called the junk. Here is how the machine works. At the very front of the head, just under the skin, is a pair of clappers that scientists nickname the monkey lips. The whale forces air through them, and they snap shut and make a click. But the click does not go straight out. It fires backwards, deep into the head, through the oil-filled organ, until it hits an air sac pressed against the front of the skull and bounces forward again, gathering strength, focused by the junk into a tight, powerful beam of sound that shoots out into the water ahead. Then the whale listens for the echo. This is echolocation, the same trick a bat uses in the dark, but scaled up to the size of a bus and turned loose in the deep sea. With it, the whale builds a picture of the black water in front of it out of returning sound. A squid hanging in the dark 100 feet away has nowhere to hide. It casts an echo, and the whale hears it. And these clicks are staggeringly powerful. They are among the loudest sounds produced by any animal on the planet. We have to be careful with the numbers because sound underwater behaves nothing like sound in air. And the figures do not translate to anything you would recognize. But the honest version is impressive enough. This is a living animal generating cracks of sound loud enough to travel for miles through the ocean and to map a world it cannot see. Which raises an obvious question. A sound that loud aimed at a soft-bodied squid, close range, in the dark. Could the whale simply blast its prey out of the water? For a long time, a lot of people thought the answer was yes. It is one of the best stories in ocean documentaries, and you have probably heard it. The sperm whale, they say, does not just find squid with sound, it stuns them with it. A single thunderclap of a click, powerful enough to knock the prey senseless, so the whale can swim up and take it at its leisure. A built-in stun gun in the front of the head. It is a wonderful idea. Scientists proposed it seriously back in the 1980s, and it was repeated as fact for decades. There was only one problem. Nobody had ever actually measured it. The scientists who first suggested it were honest about that. They wrote plainly that they could not prove it. It was a hypothesis, a guess that fit, waiting for someone to test it. And eventually, someone did. Researchers put recording tags directly onto wild sperm whales and listened up close to the exact moment of the kill, again and again. And what they found was almost the opposite of the legend. In the final second before it takes its prey, the whale does not get louder, it gets quieter. The powerful searching clicks give way to a soft, fast, buzzing stream of gentle ones, dropping in strength, not rising. And the sound actually reaching the squid turns out to be far, far too weak to stun anything at all. The whale is not blasting its prey. It is doing something more delicate and more impressive. As it closes the final distance in total darkness, it switches from booming out across the deep to whispering faster and faster, taking a rapid stream of tiny sound snapshots so it knows precisely where the squid is in the last instant it can escape. It is not a stun gun, it is the most refined targeting system in the sea. The truth was quieter than the myth, and somehow it makes the animal more remarkable, not less. So what is it actually hunting down there in the dark? Mostly squid. Enormous amounts of squid. A sperm whale can eat close to a ton of it in a single day, and the vast majority of that is not monsters, but ordinary, smaller deep-sea squid, taken hundreds at a time in the black. This animal spends its life eating a creature almost none of us will ever see in a place almost none of us will ever go, but sometimes it does take the monsters. The sperm whale is the main predator of the giant squid, and of its even larger cousin, the colossal squid. Animals with the biggest eyes in the entire animal kingdom, eyes the size of dinner plates, evolved for one purpose above all others, to catch the first hint of a hunting whale in the dark. When people cut open sperm whales in the whaling days, they found the proof of these encounters: circular scars, rings pressed into the whale's skin, left by the sucker rims of squid. And in the stomachs, thousands upon thousands of hard, indigestible squid beaks, the one part of a squid a whale cannot break down, piling up over a lifetime of hunting. Now, this is where the story usually gets carried away, so let us be straight about it. You have seen the paintings, the whale and the giant squid locked in some titanic, evenly matched battle. In the deep tentacles and teeth, a duel of equals. That is mostly a fantasy. The reality is a hunt, not a war. The squid is prey. It fights back, it grabs, and it struggles as it is being eaten, and it leaves those rings on the skin doing it. But it is not a fair fight, and those old claims of 100-foot squid measured from the size of the scars don't hold up either. The scars stretch and grow as the whale grows. They tell you there was a squid. They do not tell you it was a sea serpent. The plain truth needs no exaggeration. In the cold and the black, a warm-blooded animal the size of a bus hunts down the largest invertebrate on Earth, an animal with plate-sized eyes and grasping arms, and it does it in the dark, by sound, and it wins. That's enough. For all the fear we have hung on it, the sperm whale is not a monster, and it is not, for the most part, a loner. The image most of us carry, the solitary giant prowling the deep, is really only half of the species, the adult males. The heart of sperm whale life is the family. Females and their young live together in tight groups bound by blood, mothers and daughters and grandmothers and calves, and these bonds can last for decades, for their whole lives. A young female may stay with her mother's family forever, and they take care of each other in a way that is hard not to recognize. A newborn calf cannot follow its mother down into the crushing dark of a hunt. It would die. So the family solves the problem the way we would. They take turns. When a mother goes deep to feed, another adult stays up near the surface with her calf, guarding it so that the little one is never left alone in open water. They babysit. But the most astonishing thing about them is not what they do. It is what they say. Sperm whales talk to each other in patterns of clicks called codas, little rhythms like knocks on a door. And a family shares a style of coda, a way of clicking that is theirs. Zoom out, and something incredible appears. Across an entire ocean, thousands of whales that share a similar dialect belong to what scientists call a clan. And here is the part that stops you. Whales from different clans can swim in the very same water and be closely related by blood, and still keep their dialects separate, which means these accents are not written in their genes, they are learned, passed down from mother to calf, from family to family, a code that says who you are and who you belong to. Scientists argue that this is culture, not a metaphor for it, but the real thing. Another species down in the dark that inherits from its elders not just a body, but an identity. We are still, right now, only beginning to learn how to read it. And knowing all of that makes what we did next harder to sit with. For most of the last 2 centuries, we hunted this animal to the edge of ruin, and it began, in part, with a single extraordinary act of revenge. In November of 1820, a whaling ship out of Nantucket called the Essex was working the open Pacific when a large bull sperm whale did something whales are not supposed to do. It turned and it charged, and it rammed the ship head-on twice, and it sank her. The crew were left thousands of miles from land in tiny open boats, and their ordeal afterward was so terrible, drifting and starving until the survivors were driven to eat their own dead, that the story haunted a generation. The first mate wrote it all down, and years later, a young writer named Herman Melville read that account and turned it into a novel about a white whale and the man obsessed with killing it, called Moby-Dick. But the Essex was the exception. Almost every other whale went the other way. We hunted them, and we won, over and over for one reason above all. The oil in that great head, spermaceti, the fine wax from inside the nose, burned cleaner and brighter than any other fuel we had. It made the finest candles in the world, so fine that the standard measure of brightness, candle power, was once defined by a single spermaceti candle. It lit the street lamps and the lighthouses. It lubricated the machines of the industrial age. For a while, the modern world quite literally ran on the heads of these animals, and we killed them by the tens of thousands to keep the lights on. And then, in the 20th century, it got worse, not better. Sailing ships gave way to steel factory fleets with engines and explosive harpoons, and they killed sperm whales faster than anyone ever had, hundreds of thousands of them. More in 100 years than in all the centuries before. The largest predator that ever lived, an animal with a mind and a family and a language, was rendered down into oil by the boatload, until there were almost none left in some seas at all. They are still here. That is the good news, and it is not small. The hunting has mostly stopped. Sperm whales are protected now across the world, and their numbers, though nobody can count them exactly, are thought to run to a few 100,000, recovering slowly in an ocean that once may have held more than 1 million. They are listed as a vulnerable species, still climbing back from what we did to them. But the sea they came back to is not the one we took them from. We have filled it with new dangers, ships strike them, fishing lines and nets tangle and drown them. Plastic drifts down into the deep and ends up in their stomachs, mistaken for squid. And perhaps the cruelest one of all, for an animal that lives and hunts and speaks entirely by sound, is that we have made the ocean loud. Engines, sonar, drilling, a constant industrial roar filling the water, in the world of a creature that needs the quiet to hear. And the strangest thing is how little we still know. We have almost never actually watched a sperm whale hunt a giant squid. We do not fully understand the machine inside its head. We are only now learning to read the codas it has been passing down, mother to calf, for longer than we have been human. So picture it one more time. A mile down, in a darkness we can barely visit, the largest hunting brain on Earth is at work. It is speaking in a language we can't yet translate, to a family it will know for life, in a body shaped by the deep, doing something we will never do. It has been down there the whole time, long before us, and if we can manage to leave it alone, long after. The ocean's deepest hunter was never really the monster we imagined. It was something far more interesting. It was a mind in the dark that we are only just beginning to meet. If you made it all the way down here with us, subscribe to Blues below and we will keep going deeper. Because the ocean keeps its secrets, but every so often, if you are patient, it lets you meet one of them face to face.